What is up, YouTube? Razor here, back again with another video. And today, it's about almost a week until Kafka comes out. So I figured, I would make a should you summon guide video, whatever, what people call it these days, video on Kafka, pretty much discussing my thoughts on this character and pretty much how she's going to end up probably being. So if you guys like this, sort of content, like, comment, subscribe, really helps out the channel whenever I do make a video. And yeah, there's without just a quick disclaimer, I am not using any sort of editing. I am not doing any sort of scripting. So I'm pretty much probably going to stumble my way through this video. It's going to be an absolute mess. I hope you guys are willing to join me on this ride because it's going to be a fun one. So we're just going to kind of go through the many pages of Kafka and tell you what's good and what's crap about her. So yeah, if you want to join our Twitch chat, which is spamming wide duck ass, you can go follow our channel at twitch.tv/RasionJust if you're new to my channel. Yeah, so without further ado, let's get started into Kafka's stats. So right now, Kafka, if you somehow lived under a rock, Kafka is a 5-star lightning character of the Nihility path. Which Nihility obviously is debuffing, but she just cares about dots, which are damage over time. So there's only a couple dots in this game. There is the bleed, there's shock, there's burn, and there's wind shear. There's only 4. You can't get any more than 4. Freeze does not count. That's additional damage, not dot. Entanglement doesn't count. That's additional damage, not dot. And imprison, it doesn't even do damage. Okay, like it's just delay. So her energy cost is a little bit high at 120, but you're pretty much hopefully going to be wanting to spam this ult because your entire kit revolves around it. Speed is actually on the low side, especially for Nihility. I believe she is slower than Silverwolf. Not sure how much. I think it's like 5 or something, 5 speed slower. Yeah, so you're pretty much going to want to build speed on this character. Just a very quick tip. You really want speed. This character absolutely excels in getting speed, which is why her light cone foreshadowing gives a crap ton of speed. Who would have guessed? And then these stats mostly don't matter. Also standard taunt. So she has the same taunt as Ting Young. So maybe she'll get hit as much as Ting Young because she's hot or something. I don't know. So going into her skills, the basic attack, don't level it. If you level it, you're a fool. Don't do it. Does absolutely nothing. You're never going to be using her basic attack because you always want to trigger the dots anyway. Does absolutely nothing. You're not going to build crit. This does no damage. You're going to be dealing like 2k damage. You're being like, where am I damaged? And you leveled this up to 6, and I'm going to laugh at you for being an idiot. The talent, same thing. Leave it at level 1. If you level it, I'm going to laugh at you and complain if you complain why she's bad or something. Leveling this is not going to do anything because she doesn't crit. She will build 0 crit rate, so she'll have 5%. Okay, so now actually going into the real abilities that do things, we have her skill. So again, it's a blast type skill, which means it'll target one main target. So send 60 on the main target and 60 on the enemies that are adjacent to that target. Just ignore this part altogether. If the target enemy has a dot debuff on them, it will trigger all dots on them for 75% of the original damage. So you can do stuff like Sampo's wind shears or Luca's bleeds and her own shock as well. So those are the 3 main dots that are going to matter. You could be a big memer and run a Himiko burn build, but it's going to be crap. So I wouldn't recommend it. And then we have her ult, which is pretty much the same thing, does damage that nobody cares about, and then does the shock first and then triggers it for their damage. So, and then they'll receive all the, dots. Here's the shock modifier right here at 290, and then they just trigger all of them. If you have her trace, which is like her first trace, so pretty much everyone's going to have it anyway, it'll trigger all dots, not just the shock dot. So if you see a reading that does triggers the shock state, don't believe that. It's literally just all dots. This skill is by far the most important to level because this determines the modifier of the shock damage. And then this is a little bit less important, but still pretty good. These two, again, don't bother leveling. And one thing I do need to tell people really badly is that if a shock has the same sort of modifier, like for Kafka it's 290, it will not stack. So what that means is that Kafka's talent, if an enemy is already shocked with Kafka's ultimate, Kafka's talent will not apply a second shock. So just a big warning for anyone that's expecting to go, change, like figure out like a big difference if they, level up the talent or something, or try to double shock. It's not going to work that way. So don't even bother. Finally, her technique is basically just applying another shock. Again, since it's the same modifier as the ultimate, you cannot get a second shock. It is the same one. Originally, for those that were curious, originally her technique actually had a separate shock value, which means you could apply a shock from the technique and a shock from the ult. Except they made her crap. They nerfed her. Oh, and this talent used to be a lot better too. Originally, her talent, instead of applying a shock, actually had a sample-like vulnerability for Dot. It was like a big damage bonus for Dot and made it way better. It turns out they're like, no, that's too good. Let's make it E1 instead. So now it's E1. So unless you're whaling, get screwed. So okay, so now going into her main traces, this is good because it makes you build like only like 10% effect hit rate. You know, you really don't want to see it on your subs. It's like a very tiny bit, but not really. If enemies defeated, she generates energy. Actually pretty good because, again, you want to spam her ult as fast as possible because, one, you want to reapply shock, and two, you want to trigger the dots because the ult actually triggers more percentage of dot than the skill. So you kind of want to spam the ult as much as you can, as you possibly can. And then her final one is that was the torture, which I told you originally her ult will only trigger the shock dots. However, if you have her new ability torture, she will now trigger all dots. So wind shears, bleeds, other character shocks, etc. So there you go. This is probably the one you care about the most. Then it's, these two are kind of like a little bit optional. I would say this Thorns and then Plunder, but to be honest, this one is absolutely the one. And I believe it's like the cheapest one too. Yeah, it's the cheapest one. It is the cheapest trace for her. So if you don't get this, I'm going to laugh at you. Okay, then finally, going into Eidolons, which no one probably cares about. You can, if you're free to play, you can just, fast forward to about 2 minutes in the video because this doesn't matter for you. If you're a fat, disgusting whale like I am, maybe stick around if you figure out where you want to stop or which one actually is valuable. So her E1 and E2 are just straight up going to be the best ones. The ability to have a vulnerability buff is insane because the only other vulnerability that exists for Dot is Sampo. Or if you want to run Luca, but who cares about that guy? So, yeah, so this one is insane. Absolutely get E1. E2 is just basically a 25%. It's pretty much like 60% of a sphere for free. So it's pretty good for Sampo, Luca. It's pretty good. Skill and basic, not as important. Ult and talent, not as important. E6 is pretty good, and then E4 means that if you run an energy link, you basically can charge your ult up immediately to back to full. So it makes it pretty much very consistent for her energy gain. Otherwise, you probably should run just an attack percent link. And now we have, her E6. Yeah, this pretty much just says whale Kafka, whale damage. What did you expect? Get your Pepe whales out. Yep, I see one Pepe whale. Where are my Pepe whales? Come on. This is the Pepe whale moment. So yeah, these are Kafka's Eidolons. Again, if you are going to be a dolphin, you really, really like Kafka, I will say E1 and E2. E1 is the most important. E2 is like a little bit optional, but I would say that these two are like pretty dang decent. And so now going into her light cones. So if I can find the light cones, there's a couple of good options. We have the best one, which is patience is all you need. Again, like I told you, Kafka really wants speed because, again, if Kafka's not going, then your entire team, then your entire dot is not going to do anything because, again, Kafka's the only character that can trigger the dot. So, oh my God, they're going to give you a permanent speed increase. I mean, who would have guessed? The reason why it kind of ramps up like this, by the way, is because you kind of Hoyo is wanting you to basically apply dots first and then speed her up, so that way she gets more value. So that enemies apply dots and then your allies apply dots and then she triggers them and she gets faster, so you can keep playing it over and over again. But you're still going to build a crap ton of speed on her anyway, and then damage bonus, which makes her shock still more damage, and then finally a second shock. By the way, this also used to be a vulnerability debuff, but Hoyo thought that was too good for us, so they gave you another shock for some dumb reason. So, yeah, this could have been better, but they nerfed the heck out of this. I'm sure no one probably cares, but hey, if you did care about the history of Kafka, there you go. And then there are the other light cones. So if you guys don't have patience is all you need, then the second best light cone is good night and sleep well. Because it turns out, especially if you have this at S5, if you're somehow got ridiculously unlucky with this, maybe in the standard banner or whatever light cone banner, I think was available on a previous one. This could potentially give you 36 to 75% damage boost, or sorry, 72% damage boost. This is absolutely insane because the damage bonus does indeed scale with dot damage. So your shotgun Kafka is going to be pretty good. It will not apply to the damage bonus on other characters. So if Kafka triggers Windshare off Sampo, you will not get a damage bonus off that for obvious reasons. Those are based off that character's stats instead. But still, Good Night Sleep Well is a very big damage modifier for the Kafka if you do have it. Even at S1, it's still probably one of the better ones. If you don't, I would probably just wait until you get Solitary Healing literally next patch. I'm sure literally no content creator is going to talk about this because every content creator doesn't talk about leaks, but I don't care because, I am like that. So Solitary Healing is literally coming out next patch with the standard or with the new SU. It's the new Hurdle Shop Light Cone and pretty much gives you a break effect and dot increase and gives you energy. The break effect honestly doesn't matter because Kafka's break effect sucks. It's not as important, but it gives you a dot damage bonus and it gives you energy. And obviously you get a free S5, so I should probably move it up here. So you get 48 damage bonus on dot and you get energy. It's pretty good after you also use your ultimate. So you kind of want to spam your ultimate too for this one. Alrighty, so those are like the three main light cones. If you don't have that, then you can either cope with Eyes of the Prayer for Mata, and yeah, if you don't have those, then cry louder. If you don't want to get hurt as Shop Light Cone and don't have any of them, you could cry louder. That's all I gotta say on that. As for teammates wise, Kafka works really really well with Sampo. If you and this other guy Luca. I think Sampo, though, if you only want to get one of these ugly dudes up, Sampo is probably the better of the uglies because the problem with Luca is Luca has to use his skill to apply his dot, whereas Sampo can just use a basic attack. On top of that, Sampo has better AoE. Luca has better single target, but Sampo's got better AoE, and AoE is probably going to matter more than the single target. So again, if you care about if you care about raising only one of these ugly dudes because resources are limited in this game, get Sampo leveled up. And then finally, everyone's going to be bat chesting. All the YouTubers are going to be batting about Silverwolf. Yeah, don't use Silverwolf. Use Asta instead because again, like I told you, Kafka scales really, really, really hard off speed, and Asta gives speed and attack, the two really good things you want on a dot team. Because again, if Kafka doesn't get to move, your dot damage does nothing. Because again, Kafka wants to trigger the dots as fast as possible, especially before they expire, so she can get her ult and repeat the same cycle all over again. If you guys don't believe me, there's been a ton of Kafka 3 crafting out there where you really, really need speed. And it turns out even if Asta only has a 66% uptime on her speed buff, so a 3-turn ult, she's still probably going to be the best support. So again, save your Pellas, save your Soul Rolls for other teams, run Kafka with Asta. And then finally you can run any healer, like legit, I could run any healer. Bailu, you can run Luocha, the best healer in the game. Or you can run Nat for bleed potential if you're lucky. But honestly, your choice of healer doesn't matter. Or if you want to go for another waifu for whatever reason, you can get for Fushuan. Fushuan will probably be good enough for a sustain, but I'm not sure if you'd be willing to, give a skill point because the Kafka teams are going to be very skill point heavy. So you're basically going to be living off 1 to 0 skill points the entire time. But yeah, so those are going to be the Kafka teams. And I feel like the last thing we need to talk about is the relic sets and the relic stats you should be looking for on Kafka. So again, going into relic sets, I've seen a lot of people talk about 4-piece lightning. If I can find it. For some reason, I'm blind. Okay, there's the 4-piece lightning. I'm going to tell you, don't do that. Don't do 4-piece lightning. Again, Asta's going to give you a, 80, 60 to 70% attack boost. You don't really need a 20% more attack. It's not going to really do much for you. Instead, like I told you again, this all comes down to Kafka really cares about speed. So you run 2-piece lightning, 2-piece speed. The more speed you have on Kafka, the better you're going to be. If you're a god and manage to hit over 200 speed on Kafka, that means Kafka gets to go twice on every cycle, and on the first cycle, she got to go 3 times. And I know everyone's going to say, wow, Razor, 200 speed sounds like a lot. Well, if you have Asta, you're probably going to have already 45 of that speed anyway. So, and if you are going to Dolphin for the Light Cone, you have even 14 more speed. So again, building speed on Kafka is pretty much the main end game. Everything else doesn't matter as much. So again, on the main stat, on the chest piece, you're going to want attack because every other stat sucks on that piece. You want to go speed boots, absolutely, because speed is king on Asta. Anyone that tells you attack boots is lying. Speed boots are king. Even if they're crappy substats, I don't care how crap your substats are on the speed. If you can get a speed boots on the lightning or speed set, run them on Kafka because that's going to matter a lot. And then obviously the head and the arms pieces, you're just mainly going to care about speed and attack. If you don't care about anything else, it's literally just speed and attack. Break effect is mid, but if you get it, it's not horrible. It's not completely useless. And effect hit rate, if you get above 10% overall effect hit rate, you literally rolled into nothing. That you rolled into something that is worse than flat def. Anyways, and then on the SU pieces, you're mainly, if you want to go pure min max, you can go space stealing station. If you want to go all the way for your queen or whatever, you can get the extra 20% attack or 24% attack. I would honestly recommend Talia Kingdom of Banditry. And why Talia Kingdom of Banditry? One, you can actually hit the 145 break. Speed break point for speed. If you run Asta, it's pretty much going to be pretty easy to hit. And so, break effect's not horrible. On top of that, though, it actually is on pair with paired up with like an actually good set called Sprightly Von Whack. This pretty much works on like every support character in the game, like Asta, Ting Young, Bronya. It's actually pretty good. So on those characters in particular, so getting not because really of the 5% energy regen rate, but being able to guarantee going first, especially on Bronya, is kind of insane. This is not really meant for a Kafka team, but this is more of so is like, you guys probably have limited energy, and so I'm just going to tell you the most efficient place to farm for most characters, because at the end of the day, SU3 with these two sets, Fleet of the Ageless and Space Stealing Station, they're going to suck long term for like 99% of characters, because everyone now cares about SU7, which actually has good sets. So again, if you guys, I think Sprightly Von Whack will still have a place in the meta, which is why I'm just saying Talia Kingdom of Banditry is just good, just a solid piece. It honestly doesn't matter too much, again, because you're running Asta and you're probably going to run an attack percent link, which is what I do recommend on Kafka, unless you have the whale and stuff with the energy, or if you do run the light cone, you can run energy regenerate, but you're primarily going to want to run attack percent link, and obviously you're going to want a damage bonus sphere, a lightning damage bonus sphere on Kafka, because the dots on Kafka herself, not the break dots, but the regular dots that Kafka applies off her ult, will indeed scale with lightning damage bonus. So make sure you get lightning damage bonus and not attack. Don't be dumb. And then, yeah, so again, break effect, it's okay. It's not horrible. But you're not really going to be wanting to look for that compared to speed and attack. And because there is no speed SU set in existence right now, you can't give her speed. So, but yeah. So I think that should be everything covering Kafka. Overall, I'm gonna be quite honest with you guys. I think Kafka is gonna be kind of like mid, to be quite honest. So, if you were wondering about characters that I do think are going to be good, Dan Hong and Fu Xuan are both insane. These characters are nutty, and I'm just talking about Kafka because I know a lot of people are interested about Kafka, but I'm going to be Kafka's pretty mid. Dan Hong, IL, and Fu Xuan are going to be amazing. So, yeah, sorry for putting at the end. But if you guys enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Really helps me out. And join us on our beautiful Twitch chat where they're typing Dan emotes. And yeah, I will see you guys later. Peace.